like every single day, there's a little bit of good, a little bit of bad. Actually, the bad part is really bad in the news today. But like always, a lot to unravel and make sense of the headlines today. But I think if there was a theme of today's headlines, what's going on in the news after the weekend, I keep coming back to this. Things are different. Things are just different, mostly in a good way, and how people respond to this. And I all think that revolves around one thing. Very few people rely on mainstream media these days. They rely on this, what you're watching or listening to right now. Your phone, your tablet, social media, laptop, whatever it is. That's what's made the difference. All right, let's get right to it. First of all, we're going to talk about this. I can't start off with this. It's too horrific. But this Cincinnati Jazz Festival mob beatdown and attack, which is exactly what it was so horrific. This stuff would happen all the time. But the good and the bad of it is, if these cackling jackals who were responsible for this didn't whip out their cell phones and record it, ironically, we wouldn't even know about the story. Because guess what? Mainstream media, especially in the market of Cincinnati, crickets, media silence, not even talking about it until now because of the national reaction. We'll get to that, obviously, but can't lead off with that. I just can't do it. But we've got a trade deal to talk about, apparently the biggest ever with the European Union. Now, I'm like you. I don't really want to hear a bunch of numbers and trade deals. You know, we hear a bunch of numbers, and I'm like, yeah, what does it mean to me? I'm the same way. But we'll get to that as well, because it apparently means big, big things for you and me, especially in futures with agriculture. We'll talk about that, as well as, yes, we're talking baseball today, too. I know, it's not World Series time yet. We're past the All-Star game, but baseball had its Hall of Fame ceremony yesterday. And one particular player, Ichiro Suzuki, got some sweet revenge in the best possible way. So we'll wrap it up with that one. A lot to talk about, but welcome back in for the weekend. I hope it's a great Monday already for you. Thanks for finding the Wicked Radio live stream. Thanks for finding Wicked Wisdom with Bill Adams on all the social media channels, including the audio podcast. So if you're listening now on the audio, press subscribe so you know when we're coming up. And let's get to it. All right, let's start off with this trade deal. Not get bogged down in too many numbers. I'm the exact same way. You hit me with too many numbers at once, I'm like, yeah, one ear and out the other. Most people are like that. But these particular numbers mean a lot. But let's try to figure out what it means to you and me. First of all, here was Trump. And I got to tell you, Trump was sitting there after the signing with the European Union president, and he was meandering a lot with this deal. I'm like, Trump, get to it. What does it mean? He finally did kind of sort of at the end, but the gist of it is this.
$750 billion worth of energy. So that's going to be great. And $600 billion worth of investments into the United States over and above what they have. So, and I think that basically concludes the deal. I mean, those are the main factors.
Yeah, that's big, all right. Did you hear what he said there about energy? First of all, the energy investment is massive, meaning that they're going to have to buy a lot of our energy sources from us, which has never happened before. So that's huge. I think you know where I'm going. I'm thinking like investments. I'm no stock advisor. Don't ever take financial advice from me, but that, as well as futures in agriculture. Our farmers, our food producers have never been able to open up the European market before. Looks like things are different this time. In fact, let's get to that. Here's Howard Lutnick. Howard, this guy's always entertaining. He's our Commerce Secretary talking about the trade.
$700 billion a year. That's just net new money the government never had before. So you take that every year for 10 years, that's $7 trillion. And then what they're not counting is the way the president is smashing open these markets. You got every market, right? Japan, Indonesia, Vietnam, you name the deal he does, and he opens that market. That's going to have export growth, right? Never before has our ag and our industrials actually had access to these markets.
He's right about that. A couple of different things. Yeah, our ag producers have never been able to open up those markets. So good news for them, for all of them, and, workers as well. But there's also this that neither of them even talked about. So overall, the length of the deal, Europeans are to invest $1.35 trillion in the U.S. They're accepting a 15% trade deal. And here I am talking about numbers like I promised I wouldn't. But still, what's it mean for us? How about our economy? This is what we care about, right? Our housing prices, our food prices, our inflation, all of this stuff. Even in my little pea brain, this is what I understand. Everything starts with energy. Because if you cut down the energy prices, and if you're able to do that by opening up markets, it reduces the cost of everything. And I'll just say one more thing on this deal, because it was a nice Sunday bit of news to receive for all of us. Everybody that said these tariffs and the threat of tariffs wouldn't work, I mean, this is just a factual black and white issue. Look at how many wins Trump has had in the economic deal. He's right about this. Look at every single one of them, and Howard Lutnick said it there too, including those Asian markets. Let's not forget, this is also on the heels. The previous biggest trade deal was the one we just struck with Japan. Not a Republican or Democrat thing, or black and white, or red or blue, or left or right, whatever the hell you want to look at this. Trade deals with these other countries to make them fair, that's good for all of us. So, sounds good to me. Not even getting bogged down by the numbers, but if this reduces our energy costs, which in turn reduces housing costs down the road and inflation, yeah, it is a big deal. And no one's been able to disagree with this yet, that it is the biggest trade deal in history. So, thumbs up on that one. All right. Sorry, I know I promised I wouldn't get into numbers. My head hurts already, too, so let's get out of that. Unfortunately, what we have to talk about is number one trending story in the U.S. right now. Number one. Oh, no. Not on TV. Nah. Not on the mainstream media networks. Nah. Not even top story in the media market of Cincinnati, Ohio, which is a media market. It's pretty big. Nope, not even. You know where it's trending number one? It's trending number one right now on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer, on your laptop, on social media, because that's where information is disseminated these days. This is why the mainstream, traditional, old-school media is going away, and they still will not learn because of stories like this. And I'm talking about what is being called, and even the ones that are covering it, like the New York Post. Let's go to them for a second. What was their description? Their description of it was the Cincinnati street brawl. What? Huh? What street brawl? This was a mob of cackling street urchins who tried to kill a couple. And yes, it's relevant to the story, and yes, I'm going to talk about it because it's the truth. It was a black mob attacking a white couple is exactly what this was. That's the God's honest truth, and until we start to recognize these kinds of things, no matter what it is, a racially motivated attack is a racially motivated attack, no matter who are the bad guys, and that's exactly what happened. Fact of the story, the Cincinnati Jazz Festival, not just traditional jazz artists, it was more like contemporary, artists that were there. Big crowd, apparently. Well, there's a white couple, unidentified right now, to protect their identity. They're fighting for their lives today because they were attacked. For God knows what reason, they were attacked and beaten savagely. I'm sure you've seen the pictures. I don't want to play too much about it or describe their injuries, but it was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my life. Just a quick little piece of sound on this thing. Okay, and of course you got the cackling jackals yelling, "Oh!" And of course the gutless rejects who had to film this thing with their phones instead of jumping in and helping. But ironically, and here's the real irony of this, we wouldn't even know about this story unless they had whipped out their phones and started recording this and posting it to whatever the hell platform they posted this on. I don't know, TikTok, Instagram, maybe even Facebook, World Star. I don't know. I have no idea, but it's out there, and now it's like wildfire. And now this one is not coming back. Now, even in a horrific story like this, I always try to make sense of all the news. You know what I do? We take the headlines and we try to look at what's great about this. It's kind of tough to look at a story like this mob attack, racially motivated mob attack in a city like Cincinnati. It's hard to look at this and try to weed through it and look at the silver lining in the clouds to find anything that's good about this. But like anything, if you train your mind to look at this stuff, there is, not at the incident, it's the reaction to the incident. Because like I said, things are different this time. Despite the media silence, there was no mainstream media, mainstream national media attention on this whatsoever. Like none. Yet. None. Even in the city of Cincinnati and their media market. You think television talked about it? You think their 6 o'clock news talked about this? Nope. They started to. There were 11 o'clocks last night. I kind of monitored this in that city to see what was going on. They had to because of the social media reaction. This is a number one trending story in the U.S., not despite this ridiculous, corrupt, fraudulent news media we have these days, because we're pretty much dusting them off to the side. Here's just another example of it, of people looking at TV. Let's call it TV news. Remember, like we used to watch? Yeah, that's dead. It's dead because of examples like this. They're not telling you the truth. It's completely biased, and they're gutless, and they're afraid to tell it like it is. How is it? What is the truth? It's a racially motivated mob attack on this white couple. I'm sure you've seen the video. You're watching me on your cell phone right now. The next thing that'll pop up on X probably is another angle of this attack. And apparently now it wasn't just this couple. There was a third victim later on down the road after the street festival, after the jazz festival, where somebody else was beaten to within an inch of his life. Now you've got the still shot of the wife, middle-aged, just white lady on the ground, eyes open, bleeding from her head. Yeah, this is what happened. From all accounts, it looked like 19 to 20 absolute disgusting street urchins attacking and beating this couple. That's about right. And here's the other thing. Here's what you're going to see today, and it's already started. It's like clockwork, like on schedule. Here's where you're going to see. Here's where you're going to read. Here will be the reaction, the apologists for this kind of behavior. Somebody, and it's actually already happened, will come out and tell you that the white couple started it. Somebody will have, there's already a grainy, zoomed in angle of the husband throwing a punch, apparently, which is really flimsy, trying to apologize and justify what's estimated to be 20, maybe over 20 people beating this middle-aged couple to unconsciousness, bleeding in the street. And they're in the hospital, by the way, both of them. We don't know if they're going to make it. We don't know. So the justification has already happened because somehow this is seen as okay. And you know who did that? The media did that. The media did that by refusing to cover these stories and telling you exactly what the truth is. Now, I promised you, despite how disgusting this is, horrifying, scary, chilling, things really are different this time around. How? Well, you got some people now, a couple of different very high-profile people who are standing up for the truth these days. If you don't know the name Harmeet Dillon, I think you should. She's the Assistant Attorney General in the Trump administration now. And she picked up on this story. And here's her statement on it. Our federal hate crime laws apply to all, capitalized, Americans. We, at Civil Rights, and that's the Department X handle, will monitor closely how local authorities handle this attack. As she's referring to the city of Cincinnati and their authorities. She goes on to say, nobody in our great nation should be the victim of such a crime, and where race is a motivation, federal laws may apply. That's what makes the difference. She mentioned everything right there. Not acceptable, federal laws apply, and she had the guts and the foresight to see if race was a motivating factor in this, and if you've seen the video, it's kind of tough to say it wasn't. Federal laws apply, and they're monitoring, most importantly, the Cincinnati officials' handling of this situation, which means another slap on the wrist, no effort to go after these disgusting street urchins. That's not going to be tolerated. That's different this time. Now watch, because if you got somebody like her, somebody like Harmeet Dillon in a very high-profile position, now watch action take place. Now they have to light a fire under their ass and go after these people because it's unacceptable. Here's the other thing that's changed, and you hope this doesn't go the other direction. You hope that this doesn't result in what is kind of like a natural human reaction, because a lot of the comments, a lot of the reaction to this whole thing is like, this is why I'm packing everywhere I go, or this is what I do, and that's a personal choice. I support and defend your gun rights. You hope violence isn't the answer to violence. You really don't, except in a situation where you have no choice and you have to defend yourself. Totally understandable. But the difference is putting on the pressure on these city officials, especially in a city like this. And yeah, you can call it a blue-run city, soft-on-crime city, whatever it is, where this kind of crap is tolerated. Something changed with this story. It really did. And it's horrifying. And it's so sad that this couple has to go through what they went through for things to change. But I'm telling you, as I sit here today on my little bar stool, it's changing. It just is. As I think this is one of those key moments where people have just had enough. They're just not tolerating this. And by that, I mean not enough. I mean an attack on anybody. If it was any particular couple singled out because of what they are. And I'm telling you, it'll happen all day long today. Somebody somewhere, you'll see it on social media. You may run into somebody like this in your family or at work will tell you, well, it's because they started it, and it's, they'll try to justify this. Don't buy it. And the good thing is most people, almost all people, aren't buying that anymore. Wrong is wrong. And as Harmeet Dillon said right there, Assistant Attorney General, racially motivated attacks, doesn't matter who did it, doesn't matter who the bad guys are, not tolerated anymore. But the most key thing that she said right there, in her position of power, you bet your ass they're going to watch these Cincinnati officials to make sure this is prosecuted. They'll try. I'm sure they'll try. And I know some people in Cincinnati who say this happens all the time. It's a crime is out of control because they slap on the wrist and they won't go after them. They'll probably try to tell you, well, we couldn't use facial ID. We couldn't identify anybody. We couldn't do this. We couldn't do that. Bullshit. The potential is there to put people away for this. And don't buy the headlines like Cincinnati street brawl. No. This was attempted murder, and these charges, when they do find these street urchins, should be nothing less than attempted murder charges, because that's exactly what this was. You pray to God that this couple is going to be okay in the hospital. You pray, and I'm sure they'll make a statement later on if they recover. But there should be nothing less than attempted murder charges from them. Now, here's something else that changed. Politics, too. Like in daily life, politics always play a role in this whole thing. Now this has the national attention. No thanks to mainstream news, because they're freaking useless. This is why nobody watches mainstream news anyway. But the public pressure and the trending story on this has gotten the attention of very, very prominent people, even outside of somebody like Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon. Let's see, Cincinnati, Ohio. Let me see if I can think of anybody who's pretty prominent who has a massive, massive following, who might be interested in this story, who's running for governor in Ohio. Oh, yeah. Vivek Ramaswamy. You watch. I don't know if it's going to happen yet, but I'm willing to bet a lot of money that it would. Vivek Ramaswamy will make a statement about this. That's what I bet you tomorrow at this time we'll be talking about his statement on the Cincinnati mob attack, the attempted murder. Because the guy's running for governor, and he reads the tea leaves. Maybe you don't like him, but he reads the tea leaves and the pulse of the people that he's supposed to represent very, very well. This story has gone completely gangbusters, and rightfully so, to give it the attention it deserves. And it should. No thanks to this stupid, useless traditional mainstream media we have, because they're useless. They're absolutely gutless, and they're useless, and that's how these kinds of incidents happen. But no more. This is why this is a turning point. Unfortunate for that couple, but there it is. But how about the irony, right? You had these, not only the attackers, who are disgusting, cackling jackals, but the people that refused to step in and help, and all they did was sit back in their phones and record it. Ironically, we wouldn't know about the story unless they recorded it. So this time, somehow, some way, justice will be served, because people have had enough. So, I know, it's a stretch. I get it when things like this happen. Oh, I can feel it already in the back of my head. Oh, he's going to try to make something positive out of this one. It'll take time. But something positive will come out of this. No thanks to the stupid news media. All right, let's pray for that couple while we're at it, because, God, that was horrific. Let's talk about something good. Yes, I know, maybe you're not into the Baseball Hall of Fame. I understand, but this is more a revenge story. People disagree with me, but I'm a big fan of revenge, as long as it's positive revenge. In other words, you take something that's been done to you, disrespect, whatever, and you turn it into something positive in a good way. The best possible way to get revenge is through humor, I think, anyway. And one of the Hall of Fame inductees over the weekend, Baseball Hall of Fame, was Ichiro Suzuki. Unbelievable player. Played mostly for the Seattle Mariners throughout his career, but he played a long time, too. He, by the way, goes into the Baseball Hall of Fame. He's the first Japanese-born player to ever go into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Incredible player. Over 3,000 hits. He had 262 hits in one season, which is a record as well. Just unbelievable player. And I will tell you, by the way, being a baseball fan, live in person at a game, and I've been to a lot of baseball games, the fastest human being I have ever seen run from home to first. It was incredible. I couldn't believe it. Fastest I've ever seen. But regardless, great player. He goes in, he gets his due. Well, There was one sports writer, and this is how baseball still works. Despite all those accomplishments, everybody with any common sense would agree with you that this is one of the greatest players of all time. But here's how baseball does it. And until they get rid of this stupid system, things like this are still going to happen. The Baseball Writers Association anonymously vote for who gets to go into the Hall of Fame. Anonymously. So they never stand by their votes, right? If you know the story, when they did the voting for this particular class in the Baseball Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, Ichiro got almost unanimous first place votes to go in because he's an all-time great. I say almost because that became the story. There was an anonymous baseball writer who left Ichiro's name off the ballot. For what possible? Who the hell did not only didn't, downvoted him, down further down to the ballot, left his name off the ballot, had some kind of personal grudge, for some God knows intentional reason, no one will ever figure out why, and will never get the name because they are anonymous, which is gross. He received 392 of 393 votes, just short of unanimity. So at the time, Ichiro, they got to him, and it became a laughingstock because it's like, who the hell, who had a grudge against Ichiro Suzuki, a guy that also, by the way, besides his greatness on the field, he was famous for making statements like, I believe the fans deserve my utmost attention and effort during the game and to respect the game of baseball. That Japanese work ethic, right? In other words, this is what I'm trying to say. Nobody doesn't love Ichiro Suzuki. I mean, except one ridiculous anonymous sports writer for some freaking reason. And it's not a mistake. It was obviously intentional. And we still don't know who it is. Well, at the time, Ichiro made a statement and he said, well, I'd like to invite that sports writer, whoever he is, to my home for dinner. We can talk things out, which was pretty cool, right? That was all right. But that wasn't real revenge. He got his revenge during his induction speech yesterday in Cooperstown, where he, like I say, positive revenge. And the best way to get that is through humor. This was one of the best speeches of all time, and everybody loved it.
And before we go on hiatus, we only have one more show after this. I'm allowed to say that, right?
Too late now.
So it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
Before we go, I want to...
Behar. Didn't want that. Here's Ichiro.
3,000 hits or 262 hits in one season are achievements recognized by the writers. Well, all but one of you.
Here we go. And everybody knew what he was talking about, too. One right.
And by the way, the offer for that writer to have dinner at my home has now expired.
Yeah, that guy's not going to go see Ichiro at his house anytime soon. So that's how you handle that kind of thing. I love it. Good for that guy. Good for the whole Hall of Fame class. That's good. Good for him. All right. I'm out of here. I'm out of material. I talked too long. It took too much of your time. But remember, what's the takeaway? Even a horrific story. You can't find more horrific stories like what happened with that Cincinnati mob attack is what it was. Don't believe the headlines. It wasn't a street brawl. It was an attempted murder attack. But remember, watch for things to be different this time. If there's any good news in this, besides the fact if we start to hear that the couple's going to be okay, that'll be the best news. But the second piece is they'll put the pressure on these city officials in Cincinnati, Ohio, to go after these cretins that attacked this couple. Watch for that to happen, despite the useless news media. All right, despite that, it's Monday, and you're already halfway through it. Good luck with that. We'll talk to you tomorrow. In the meantime, have a wicked awesome Monday. Thanks for finding the social media channels. If you're watching or listening later on, press follow for me on the audio podcast. Subscribe so you know when we're going live. Man, it's only Monday. I'm already talked out. I'm sure you're listened out. Have a wicked awesome Monday. We'll talk to you later.